Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. We are here on the cusp of a brand new dawn. The Sooners are about to go on the road and play Auburn. I don't know, guys. It's a big opportunity for us, but it's also a big challenge. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
Jay.
And we're all excited. We got a lot to cover tonight, a lot to talk about, a lot of predictions, and just a lot of banter that's been going on, I'm sure, everywhere at every water cooler, talking about how good the Sooners are going to be. I tell you, one water cooler, there's a lot of talk. That's a water cooler around Dr. Kiehn, our great sponsor. Dr. Michael Kiehn is a board-certified surgeon specializing in orthopedic sports medicine. For over 20 years, Dr. Kiehn has been serving the greater Oklahoma City metro area along with Western Oklahoma. Not only does this include surgical skills in primarily the knees and shoulders, he is a constant figure on football sidelines throughout Oklahoma high schools and colleges. Dr. Kihn's deep commitment to sports and devotion to his patients proves that he is a man to see, even though he's an Oklahoma State fan. Thank you, Dr. Kiehn.
He did graduate from OU also.
He did graduate from OU, so we need to maybe see if we can drop that OSU fan stuff because I think it's bad mojo. But
They lost too.
they did lose. They lost as well. It was not a
It did
happy
make the
time.
banter around the state a little bit more bearable.
It did. Yeah, they didn't have a lot to say about nothing.
Yeah, they were 4-0 and
Oh.
we just lost.
Actually, I saw something come
Would've
out
been
where
a
OSU was like, I see OU's being aggressive and starting a true freshman quarterback, and while Mike Gundy's sitting
And
there
they're bringing in Ringel.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatsoever.
Well, and you talk about a contrast, a tale of two universities. So they bring in their backup and hate him and don't like anything what he brings to the table. We bring in our backup and it sparks new life. Everybody's excited about this could be a new opportunity, a new beginning. So let's get into all that. Let me start with a question, and we'll take it from there because I think this question encapsulates the entire feeling of the Sooner Nation. Starting this week at Auburn, will we see a meaningfully better offense? Who wants to go with that?
I don't think so. I think it will be a little bit better, but meaningful after. Now, if this was coming off the bye week, I would feel better about it with Hawkins getting that much more time practicing with the ones. But it's hard to believe that 4 days worth of practice because we're gonna have a travel day in there. I just don't know how much more you can do in 4 days other than maybe more rolling the pocket out to, because he's going to get there quicker than Arnold would have gotten there as far as not necessarily just bootlegs, but just rolling out. And so if that causes the defense, like the defensive backs, to be keeping an eye on him from running, then that's less time that they're going to be focused on covering receivers. And it may give you some more openness to the receivers, some more space. But point total wise, are we a touchdown better? Maybe, but I don't see it being any more than that.
I tend towards actually yes, but then delving a little deeper into the thought process, maybe not as meaningful. I think you'll see a better offense. Now, getting into the term of meaningful is where I want to split the hair. I think you'll see more meaningful production from the offense, and I think Michael Hawkins will have something to do with that. I said it and I'll say it again. I don't think we can expect him to come in here and be Superman. I don't think you fix this offensive line in 5 days. Yes, we're getting a couple guys back.
That could be a big difference.
Should help solidify it.
If there is a big difference to me, if you do get Everett and Taylor back, then your running game probably gets better, and that would set the quarterback up better.
Right. So looking at some of the film that has been posted after the game, we watched one video today, where it was very visible that Michael Hawkins goes through 3 different reads before making his throw, or 2 reads before making the throw on the 3rd read. And that's something that I don't think we've seen. And again, you can kind of go back to, was the offense set up correctly for Jackson Arnold to be successful? And then once we move to Michael Hawkins, we're doing something different that's working. I don't know, but I'm going to tend towards meaningfully better on both production and actually like how the offense looks as well because of the offensive line. That being said, we're fielding a bunch of young wide receivers, so we'll see how he can grow.
Well, I think it just has to be better. I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
And like you said, going back through some of the film, I don't think you have to fundamentally change anything that you do. There's not enough time, like Lucas said. but there's things that you can scrap from your play design that just isn't working, like tight ends coming in motion, having to cover that backside defensive end or block the backside defensive end. Situational play calling, plays that take too long to develop when you're at the 1 yard line that you shouldn't do, or simply trying to run straight down the throat of Tennessee, which I don't know how they ever came up with that in the first place. So it's going to be successful.
Well, and when we don't do it, it actually is kind of
Right.
successful.
So I think between, as you alluded to, Hawkins actually seeing the field better than Jackson, being able to run better, more players on the offensive line this week, hopefully, and simply just getting away from the idea that we can run up the middle. You have to do it occasionally just to keep them honest, but I expect a whole lot more on the perimeter. And
Some speed option, maybe even.
maybe, the way BV was at his coach's show, it sounds like the RPO. Now, I don't know if you wanted to tell Auburn that you're not going to do an RPO anymore, and I'm sure it's still in there a few times, but I'm very happy to, because we've said several times on here, just take all those decision-making properties away from the offense, especially when you have an offensive line that doesn't have cohesion. You've got young quarterbacks, regardless of which one it was.
Offensive lineman playing out of position.
Yeah, and you have young wide receivers, right? And so an RPO takes all those people who are young and inexperienced, all working on the same page. And
you're on your 5th and 6th, 7th receivers too.
yeah, that's what I mean. They
I
have to know the RPO. Like,
outside of Burks,
am I seeing what the
everybody else
quarterback's
is
seeing, or like what am I supposed to do? So I think all that combined, I'm really excited. My outlook forward is we have a much more successful game plan this week, and then we have a bye week to ramp up for Texas.
So I'm going to side with a good chance of meaningfully better. We really should be demanding meaningful improvement regardless.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
even
mean,
if
it
Jackson
has to
Arnold
be.
we're playing, you should be saying, I don't care. You've got to get better. You've got to be better. I think that I got like 3 sub-points or ways to go with that. Some of them positive, some of them negative spin. But before that, on the RPO and the signaling that we're not going to run RPO, if that's what it is, little cat and mouse there, because it could be they're saying we're not going to run RPO, knowing Auburn's hearing that, and we go ahead and run RPO. They've got to prepare for it either way. That's
Michael
going to be
Hawkins may be incredible.
what they see on tape. He may be great at it. In fact, we had lots of opportunities. If you execute it the right way, it would have been very successful against Tennessee. He just did the exact wrong thing in several situations. So it's hard to know. It wouldn't surprise me if there's no RPO, and we won't really know if it's just play action and everything, or what they're doing. Or it could be that they're running RPO and they're having lots of success. Could be more of the same, and that's failure. That's a real problem. If we see meaningful improvement, I worry that it kind of hides the problems, and that a couple of different ways this plays out that could be bad for us, even if it's good in the short term.
Saves Latrobe's job.
It could save a bad coach's job. It could be just that you've got a guy in Michael Hawkins who comes in, and his pure raw athleticism and his difference making with his feet, and the fact they don't have a game film, he starts to look really good. It could be success through simplification. And that would include simplifying what they're doing on the line, simplifying what they're doing in their schemes. And you can have success doing that. And you could combine that with gimmickry, and throughout the entire season, you're seeing marked improvement. It's not going to be improvement you can build on for latter years, though, would be my worry, because you're not going to build on that. You're never developing those players, developing the linemen, developing the calls to get to the offense you really want in those in situations. So
do you think there's already because I like the, not to cut you off, but I like the idea of, I've thought about the idea of simplification a lot in terms of just, I don't think we have the talent nor the depth right now in offense to be able to afford to really run anything complex or layered in a sense. So just dumb it down to a base offense and say, I'm going to take just every single thing that the defense gives me wherever it's at, as long as it's moving me down the field.
Yeah, keep it simple, Steve.
Do you think there's a conversation, or you think there's a thought already in Brent Venable's mind right now where if we do look and it is simplification, that we've already moved on from Seth Luttrell and this is just getting us towards the end of the season.
I don't,
Because I also like
Expect
the
that.
idea of what you said of, I do want to start building on what we're building for the future as well. Michael Hawkins needs it. Like,
Right.
if you're not doing that, you're wasting an opportunity here. If you change everything up on him in the offseason and say, hey, I know we did this last year, but you're 1 year into the system. We're gonna make it tougher for teams to know what we're doing. So we're gonna implement a new playbook or something like that.
and really, if you look at the defense in their first year, they started simple and in an effort to build for the future, they got complex probably ahead of schedule. But that was probably complexity that we're seeing the fruits of that labor today. So that's difficult. Now, how much runway does a coach have to do that before the fan base won't tolerate it because they can't see the vision of what could come down the road? I
And
don't
Brent
know.
Venables had the luxury of being Brent Venables and
Mhm.
saying, I'm making this.
Trust
this is,
me, I
This is
can
how
get
it's
it."
always going to be. It's going to always be this hard. This is what we're going to run. And yeah, it doesn't look good now, but it's going to get better. Seth Luttrell definitely doesn't have that runway in terms of what he's putting out there.
But simple doesn't necessarily mean it's ineffective.
Right. No,
Not
I'm
at all.
assuming it's very
I think it's
effective.
going to be really effective.
I'm saying simplification works and it hides the problems and it never corrects them, is my worry. The other worry is that it's very related, improv, but not improvement. So his improvisation can lead to a lot of success, but you're really not building an offense that down the stretch, even in this season, can really work.
Well, for me, the simplification of it isn't, it's, we know our problem is offensive line. And simplifying it, you're working with what you've got
Right.
to be successful. And Auburn, you can probably stay fairly simple. We should be able to hold them on defense. The game should be close regardless of what the offense does. Further down the road, we're not going to be able to just, oh, hey, we're running left here against Texas
Right.
or Alabama or somebody else. But we have time to add to that. And again, sometimes a simple zone read is just a guy that can read it. And it just is what it is.
And that's
It's
all
not-
it takes.
That's all it is.
So I think there's elements of that, and I don't mean to be real pessimistic about it. The other would be that it's almost unfair to Jackson Arnold or what we've seen already for Seth and everybody else. As we get healing from these injuries, we get the line back. They're going to get better. Presumably, these guys are better. So we may see improvement. Don't key in on, oh, they fixed the offense or Hawkins is the guy. It may just be that the offensive line finally came to play. And then regardless of how it plays out, if Jackson Arnold transfers and goes on to be real successful somewhere else, or if he comes in duties for Hawkins who gets hurt, or for some reason wins the job back and looks stellar, it could just be that he rested and got his mind right, but it also could be these other things came together for it. And so it's easy to, I think, get ahead of ourselves in how everything's broken. And it sure looks like everything on offense has been broken for basically the entire season, when it could just be, it just took a few things getting fixed for these really talented people to start looking really good.
I mean, Gage and Twitter, it seems like everybody's done with Jackson Arnold. I'm not.
I'm not
I
either.
still think he's got plenty of talent and has time to get it straightened out.
Yeah.
I think he definitely made bad decisions in that game and a couple of boneheaded ones previously, but the talent, and watch him in high school. I know it's against 6A Texas high school talent and not college, but he was playing against Division I players on a weekly basis in high school. And I watched him.
Who would become division?
Yeah.
Right.
I watched him play really well and dominate at his position. So outside of the 3 turnovers this last game, one of them, the fumble on the 5-yard line, that could literally happen to anybody. He probably made the wrong decision because that might have, unless it was not a replay, it might have just been fake pitch to the right and go up in the pile.
Supposedly, it was completely a fake toss.
So he did what he was supposed to.
But
He
when
just didn't hold on to the ball.
But what's weird about that,
Of course, that's what they
not to
say.
get off tangent, is, I don't know that we've even done a single toss this year. So what was the fake?
I don't know. It's not a bad fake. I mean, you're a defender. You got to follow the fake. I mean, it's not like you're gonna. It's not like you're gonna sit there and say.
If he would have pitched it, I think it's
No,
a
I know,
touchdown.
and that's why I think it probably wasn't just. I don't know. I don't think they're so smart to say, nope, I haven't seen that on tape, so there's no way you could possibly pitch
It's
that ball.
also the wide receivers we have now are not blocking wide receivers.
No.
You don't have Nick Anderson out there who is a
Right.
good blocker. Farouk is a really good
really
blocker.
physical.
But Brennan Thompson
Gibson,
can't block
Gibson
me.
was too.
Right.
You've got Burks, who's not a. I mean, he's skinny as a rail. He's not blocking.
Well, our
anybody.
biggest wide receiver is what? JJ Hester probably at this point, and
Yeah.
he's not playing.
Yeah, I mean, he can't.
He's not can't catch the ball.
So, I mean, Drake Stoops was a solid blocker.
Great block.
He's gone.
Zion
So-
Kearney, the few times he's out there, he made a great block on that Farouk slant
And I
across the
think you're
middle.
going to see a lot more of those guys.
I think Jacoby.
I mean, we're just missing. I mean, you.
I think
really-
Jacoby's going to be used
It's
for his physical
It's
build.
hard to run to the outside when you don't have wide receivers blocking.
for sure.
Well, I'd
And
agree.
that-
So I
that
agree
takes
with
away
you.
a full aspect
Don't-
of your game.
Don't write off Jackson Arnold yet. I think that's fair. I don't think anyone who's saying so far he's a bust, but anyone who thinks case closed, that's a rush to judgment that's not fair on
I
the kid
definitely am
who
not.
has not played a full season
I'm
yet.
definitely not writing him off, but I'm also going to hot take this, and I don't think we see him take another snap for OU. I think he hit the 4-game mark, still has his red shirt.
He took all the number 2 reps this week.
It's interesting.
Well, so the question would be, it's strategic. It includes some game theory about how you're playing as a program to potential recruits down the road. If you're in a game like, people laugh if I say Texas, so let's call it South Carolina. And let's say that you're up by 4 touchdowns. You've got a very comfortable lead in the third quarter. They can't move the ball at all. And you go in for a 5th touchdown or whatever it takes to be like, we'd really like to take Hawkins out of the game. Who do you think comes in?
If it's my kid, it's Casey Thompson.
100%.
If Jackson Arnold's your kid.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If- yeah,
No, but if you're the coach,
okay. Let me put it this way: Jackson Arnold is not going to get on the field and play snaps, with the exception of
An
Hawkins being injured.
an injury. I would agree. I don't think there's any way you put him in because you don't want to burn the red shirt.
And it's
Because
also
it's either
record,
value to you or value to him.
I think this
it's
in
also
transfer.
record dependent upon like where you're at in the season. If we have 4 losses and there's 2 games left, there's no way he sniffs the field. If we have 2 losses and there's 2 games left,
So what if it's that? What if it's it's Maine,
I would hope
then
that he does.
Alabama,
Then Missouri.
then Missouri?
Then LSU.
No.
Alabama,
No,
LSU's back to back.
Alabama, or it's Missouri, Alabama, LSU.
So we
Maine,
have 3 games after Maine.
If
Maine, Missouri, Alabama, LSU.
if we have 2 losses and Hawkins gets hurt in the fourth quarter against Missouri,
You put Jackson Arnold in.
I would hope Jackson would want to be.
You have to. I think that's the
The
reverse
team is
of
still
it.
up for the playoffs. The
You're
team is
basically
up-
saying
it-
sort of
everything
like
is
the
still
UNLV kid and the heat he's taken for whatever's going on in that situation, not taking sides in that, but you need to show to future teams, both college and pro, I'm a team player. And I am willing to do what it takes for a team that's still pursuing everything that's in front of them
Yeah,
in that situation. I agree. I
hope
think he
he's-
should take the
I
field.
hope he's busting his ass day in, day out this week.
Well,
he-
that's what I was about to say.
He
Is it,
needs to be.
is it fair to say that this game that Hawkins is getting in Auburn is a trial run to see if he's actually QB1? Saying,
Sure.
hey, we're going to
Of
give you this.
course.
We're going to give you
Hawkins-
this game.
yeah,
This
he
is
could fall
actually
apart as the
your
guy.
this is your tryout to
Yeah.
see if you can handle
Yeah,
it. And then if
Arnold could
things
come
don't
in
go well in
could-
this
could
game,
come in.
he
Yeah,
can come
has
in
3
Saturday.
turnovers.
in Jordan Hare.
He can come in
Play the
Saturday.
second half, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, if
So-
Hawkins just misreads everything and is just
Looks like it's getting
just looking terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You've got to try and win the game.
You know what really screwed him was the fragility of Dylan Gabriel last year, taking that shot at BYU and burning Jackson's red shirt for a half against BYU.
Yep.
Because up until that point, he had played his 4 games and had planned on not playing the BYU game, obviously.
Yep.
And then he could have played the bowl game for free because that doesn't count against your red shirt. So he would have used his red shirt last season if not for the Dylan Gabriel injury for the second half.
And we called it at the time, he should have been playing more, period. Even if you don't want to say that he should have replaced Dylan Gabriel for the future, which was our call, he at least should have been playing meaningful minutes against Kansas and a lot of others, because it turns out he burned the red shirt anyway, and you really could have used that time to develop and see what he could do.
Well, these are rose-colored glasses here, but who's to say maybe Hawkins is the guy. And maybe Hawkins is here 3 years. What if Jackson does the unthinkable
He won't.
and sits around
He won't.
until it's his turn again?
He won't.
It is possible.
But he won't.
No,
It's not
It's
impossible.
very unlikely
It's
in
not
today's day and
It's
age.
not a
But
0
it's
chance,
very
but it's sub 10%.
Very unlikely.
That's what I mean, that's the rose
If
colored
Hawkins is
For
the
sure.
guy
Yeah.
Sure.
from now forward.
Right. It depends on how good he is, and it actually gets more likely if he's really, really good. Because if he's the better he is, the sooner you think you can get back out there. Because he's going to go pro after 2 years or something.
You would have
Well, he's
And
a
how
true freshman.
bad-
He'll have this year plus 2 more.
yeah.
He may not be there that long.
No, he has
He
to.
has
He
to
has to be.
I
You
thought you
have
can
to
leave
play
after
3.
2.
No, 3.
Play
Three.
Yep.
No, but that would leave you
Oh, yeah, you're
With the
because
rest
he's a
of-
true freshman.
Yeah,
If-
Yeah.
if let's just say Hawkins is healthy the whole season, does well, and you can bring in a Casey Thompson to kneel the ball or hand the ball off in
Right.
these games.
And that's what you did.
And you do get to redshirt Jackson Arnold this year.
And he has 3 more years.
You would have 1 full season as a starting quarterback of an OU team that should be loaded come that time.
Completely loaded. And let me ask you a question. Has a player ever had just 1 season at OU as quarterback and done any good?
Jeez, I don't know.
I don't know. I remember a guy, he was like #1 draft pick and won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, but also that's a different situation because he was the younger player. He was younger than Baker. Jackson is older than Hawkins.
Right,
For
sure.
him to stick around and
Sure.
let an underclassman play in front of him for 3 years before he gets his chance, no chance that happens.
But you're also okay. Again, this is
And it's NIL now.
but
Yeah, and it's NIL.
But that NIL helps keep him around.
Not
As
Not
much
when you
as
have like
no.
Ole Miss and those types of teams.
But
going out
no.
shelling
As
out
much
money.
in a world without NIL, it's more likely he leaves than a world with NIL.
Yep.
Because with NIL, he can get paid for sitting the bench. Without NIL,
He's-
he has nothing.
I don't think he's the kind of person that's gonna take A, second quarterback money, and B,
No one's saying it's likely, but the possibility is there.
when
And the
Oregon's paying
reason it's
people
there is
3.5
because
million
of
to
this.
go, he could easily take a shot at Oregon or somewhere like that.
Yeah, no. All the reason in the world to make the transfer, but there's a chance he stays if and there's a chance you. Whereas
But
you
what if-
don't throw the entire back the truck up and throw the money at a Dylan Gabriel, you might do that for Jackson Arnold.
you're also assuming that a top-notch school is going to take him
Right, rather than just a Mississippi State.
or even lower.
Right. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
A top-notch school.
It happened to Malachi Nelson, right? Goes to USC, doesn't get to play, leaves, and ends up, where is he at now?
Boise.
Do you
Boise.
think
The
Malachi
back- the
Nelson?
quarterback
Boise.
Boise.
Do you think
He was the
Malachi?
number 3
So
quarterback.
that's something to look at, though. Are you guaranteeing that you're going to be a starter? Are you guaranteeing that that starting position is going to be worth a flip? Because if you go to, Boise's on the mind because you say that, even Boise, you're not getting the notoriety that you're getting at one of these other programs. And I'm not. If the choice is Ohio State or backup at Oklahoma, it's Ohio State. There's no way we can equal that. But if the choice is Oklahoma as a backup, or you might be the starter, likely but might, don't have to be the starter at Boise. And even if you are, you might lose 4 or 5 games and not look that good because it's Boise.
Well,
Who
he
the hell
Who's
knows?
SMU.
And the same thing can happen where
Who's SMU starting quarterback 2 years ago?
Tanner Mordecai.
Mordecai.
Tanner Mordecai.
Mordecai.
He was back up at OU. He had the opportunity. He had 2 really good seasons at SMU.
But that's the kind
They
of
went to
school
Wisconsin.
Mordecai should
And
go.
that
Yeah,
was Evans.
he's not Jackson Arnold.
They both
Mordecai goes-
So if
both-
Jackson-
both of them did.
So if Jackson Arnold hasn't proven anything and his best offer is an SMU, that's not a great offer. That's about like when an assistant coach goes and leaves to be the head coach at SMU. It's like, good luck.
I don't know. SMU's been known for paying some guys.
That's true. But it's like, good luck because that might not materialize into anything. And so 2 years later, when you're fired as the coach, or 2 years later, when you look up and you're not drafted because you're a washed up quarterback who didn't develop in a system that can't develop quarterbacks, I don't know if that's a
I
great
think
of a
it would be a
prospect.
double stepping stone move if he was to go to if his best offer was an SMU, it would be I'm gonna go
To then go
hopefully
again.
prove myself and
and
then
then
go
go again.
again somewhere else where I can.
Could he come back?
But
to
at
OU?
what point do you
Oh.
also, well, at what point though,
That'd be awesome.
he might get his opportunity again at OU well before the quote 3 years later.
Right.
I mean,
Easily.
Hawkins could tear his ACL. He could
Right.
have concussion problems. He could, get kicked out of school. I mean, there's all kinds
could
of
be
things,
terrible.
and you're the guy.
He could be bad. He could have a bad second year, just like Jackson Arnold's having a bad second year.
Yeah.
I mean, look how good 2020 was for Spencer Rattler, and then he fell off the map.
But you also fracture a relationship with the coaching staff because you're going to feel like you got screwed over, even if it didn't happen. He knows he went out there and made terrible mistakes against Tennessee, 3 turnovers. He knows he screwed up, but he may feel like he still deserved to show himself out like this week, and he got replaced. So there might be bad blood,
Sure.
just in
There could
feelings.
be all kinds of bad
I mean,
reasons.
he's a 19-year-old kid. His feelings might be hurt that he's not the
Sure.
number 1 quarterback that he'd been promised, or however you want to put it, coming out of high school. And so he just wants to sever ties because it sucks.
No, that's
Well,
I mean, that's how
but-
Kyler
but-
felt at A&M.
What
that's
happened?
not relevant to
That
the
literally happened
discussion
to
of,
Kyler at A&M.
but that's not the relevant discussion to, like, there's a million stories of why he might leave. We're trying to say, how could he stay? And that doesn't change that he might stay.
What happens 4 weeks from now in practice when the offensive line is almost completely healthy and gelling, and maybe a few receivers come back? Maybe Arnold's looks like $1 million.
Well,
What if
that-
he
but
looks
that's where you
better
have-
when all of those guys are back and you're like, let's get him in there?
Well, and that's what you have to think about as a coaching staff at this point. If you're rolling a true freshman out there, you do have to think about if there's a point where we're in practice and Jackson getting these guys back and the line coming back, where Jackson actually looks like he's performing better, then you have to make the switch again. Like you can't. This can't be and I understand like building confidence and a rhythm and a rapport and everything else is important. With as many guys as we've had out, that's not even going to be a thing until you get some of those key pieces back. Unless you just find a few guys that are freshmen that just find their way magically, that I don't think is going to happen.
I mean, what if
but it
Michael
does have to be
Hawkins-
an open conversation week by week.
Week
in
by
my
week,
opinion.
yeah.
I don't
What
think
if-
this offensive line ever gets good.
No, but
No
what
matter
if
how
part
you
of the
get back, I don't think this offensive line gets good by the end
but
of this
what if
year.
part of the discussion is
Oh, this is
due to the offensive line and what we've got, Michael Hawkins gives us the best chance now
Right. To win now versus
with
the
his
future.
legs now.
Right.
Even though he looked better throwing also.
Right.
But maybe the
He did
thought
look
process at first was, let's just,
This is
We
a
know he
this
can
is a
make plays
now
with his legs.
decision, not an Alabama decision.
yeah.
Yeah. That could be, and it really circles back to the hypothesis I've been running with.
Did Tua look better than Jalen Hurts all
Right,
year long in
right,
practice? Or
right,
what? I
right.
don't know. Who knows?
And they flip flopped several times.
Well, no, but no, they didn't put him in until the championship game.
Right. But then they flipped back and replaced him again, right? Or that was after injury.
And the SEC championship
Hurts won the
the next
game.
year.
Hurts won the game.
Yeah,
won the
Hurts,
game.
yeah, Hurts stuck around. Was
Uh-huh.
on
Tua
table.
won the national
Right.
championship by benching
Right.
Hurts.
Yeah, he stuck
And
around.
benched Tua, and Hurts won.
They
the
didn't bench
SEC.
Tua was hurt.
He got hurt.
Yeah, it was.
No,
the-
but that's what I'm saying. But
No,
Hurts-
he
I think
replaced
the year he
him.
got
They benched him in the
They
SEC
benched
game.
him in the SEC
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
no, he got hurt.
It was
That's
when
where he hurt his ankle.
was his ankle hit.
That's what
Before
we
they
played him.
played us, I think
That's the Tua where he hurt his ankle and got the
It
title.
was like a similar injury to the Dolby injury.
it's very similar to Dolby, which gives us all hope. I mean, if you think about it, there's a chance. I mean, I'm not, again, crazy speculation, but do not be surprised if you see the return of players, including a guy like Dolby, that looks just like
It looked pretty bad.
season ending, maybe
looked
career
pretty bad.
ending, and all of a sudden we get more information about what the actual injury is. There's surgeries today. I don't know. There's a chance that he's back in 4 or 5
Yeah,
weeks.
because there's dislocations are a lot better than fractures.
Right, a lot better.
It was
so
disgusting.
there's always a chance. Now, my hypothesis has been that Jackson Arnold looks really good in practice, and that's why he's been deceiving everybody.
He's a practice player.
And so if he continues to be a practice player, guys get healthy. This is like a pessimistic scenario. And Michael Hawkins is not kind of getting it done, or he's not getting into the level. And then they're like, crap, what do? We've lost 3 games. They throw Jackson back in there, burn the red shirt, and then he doesn't look so good because he's still not a gamer. That sucks. All around, everybody loses in this scenario.
In this case, what we're talking about right now, I've got to hope that Hawkins is the guy. Like, I've got to hope that everything that we're hyping up, or that the media and the public is hyping up to be, even in my own self, am hyping him up to be, I've got to hope he's the guy. I've got to hope that the talent translates in the long term. But we'll see. I mean, it
was a small sample size, but
it's a new journey for us. I mean, like, last time we had a true freshman quarterback starting at OU was when?
Landry,
Landry was? No,
Wasn't
he was a
Landry?
red shirt.
was he?
He was a red
I think
shirt.
Aikman started as the freshman.
Well,
5 games.
Bomar?
I think Bomar was a freshman.
But
I
no,
mean,
but
if you want a story,
but
it's,
he would
it's
be-
Aikman getting replaced by Jamel Holloway as a true freshman, goes on to win the national championship
and
with the power of his legs.
if Hawkins still has the job come OU Texas, Hawkins would be the first true freshman at
To
OU
start
to
OU
start
Texas.
OU Texas
I think ever.
ever.
which is a crazy stat, to be honest.
We need to look that up to verify, but I think that's correct.
Well, you say crazy stat, but freshmen couldn't play until like 76 or something.
Yeah,
So,
71, 72, yeah.
I mean, it
That's-
was,
yeah.
it was late.
That's 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as crazy because it's Oklahoma,
Right.
and Oklahoma has a lot of talent, but it's still kind of crazy. We'll have to look it up and see what that looks like. So with my hypothesis about how good he may be in practice, does that give our second string quarterback or second string look in practice? And that's really the scout team. Like, are they in amazing position? Because you're now going against Jackson Arnold. If I'm right that he looks great in practice and now he's running scout team, that could be really, really powerful.
Be good for our defense.
It could be really good.
I don't
for our
know. They've
defense.
been going up against Mike Hawkins. So
I know they have, but maybe he can't do all the things that Jackson
different
Arnold
look.
can do.
Yeah,
Does
different
this
type of
lend
look.
credence
I don't
to the
know.
reports earlier in the fall where all the insiders were saying Hawkins was out playing Jackson Arnold?
Absolutely, it does.
Oh, and I mentioned
That comes into the fold
immediate.
tremendous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But you don't know the context of it.
Oh, for sure.
Was
And
he-
I wasn't. We weren't. None of us
No,
were
no,
on the
but
hype
I mean,
train,
but
right?
I mean, was he okay? Were they getting equal reps against the first team defense, with
Right,
the first team
right.
offense?
What
and
was-
Michael Hawkins is out playing,
what were people seeing?
No chance.
or was Michael Hawkins with the second team,
Against the
which
second
happens to be all of our first team wide receivers right now?
team, which is a benefit to this
Yeah.
week
It is. It
because
is. It is.
he probably didn't play much with
with
Gibson and
Baruch,
Baruch
yeah.
and
No,
Anderson in
that's-
practice.
and Burks.
He had a bunch of
Petaway.
pedagogy.
Yeah.
If you want to be a Jackson Arnold apologist,
Esther.
right? That's one thing you could lean on. He might be really frustrated.
Yep.
He built all the 7-on-7 time through the summer, his rapport with certain receivers and how they run routes and
Yes.
how tall they are and how fast they are and how everything else. And now he's throwing to a whole group of backups that
Right.
he hasn't thrown to at all.
Mm-hmm. Definitely so. And
And he hasn't had to run for his life, probably.
right. Yeah. No. Definitely not.
I don't know. I think our second team defense against our second team offensive line, he's probably running for his life.
Well,
But he was
not
wearing-
that
They'd
line.
have a blue jersey.
Not
Not
that line.
Yeah.
Not that line.
Not which line.
The line that we're seeing, we're seeing some makeshift combination of first team and second team and playing in different positions. Like, we have not seen those units on the field in an actual game that actually practice together as a first team and a second team.
And of course, we all hope this week goes fantastic.
Sure.
But Jackson Arnold has not played with Sexton at left tackle, Everett at guard, Hickman at center, Nwewu, and then hopefully Jake Taylor right tackle. That's like the best lineup we can hope for
Mm-hmm.
at this point. Again, hopefully it's fantastic and he just tears it up with it. But
I mean, hopefully so. I think there's reason to be hopeful. One of the things that kind of the banter I've been hearing is people in the back of their minds keep appreciating this defense, and we are not appreciating this defense probably enough as a fan base. This defense has a chance to keep us in every game, literally every game. If the offense can just do as much as possible, we can win every game. We can at least be competitive in every game. So it's going to be interesting to see. And it's a contrast, obviously, to what we saw 3 or 4 years ago, where we're saying, if the defense can just hold them to this number of points, and now we're like, well, if the offense can just score this number of points, we'll win that football game, because we've got to expect the defense can be there. One of the keys, though, is not just points. It's got to be time of possession. We've got to figure out time of possession and keep that defense off the field as much, not just off the field, but more rest. So time of possession is one metric, but it's not necessarily the only one. You got to maximize that downtime that when the clock's not running. And if you throw an incomplete pass, don't go out there necessarily and call Hut with 3 or 4 seconds burned off the clock in some kind of hurry up mode. Run that clock and give that extra 20, 30 seconds to that defense to catch their breath. Those add up, not just in terms of, you've got your wind underneath you, but also just wear and tear and injuries. Just give us some ability to not have to be back out there in a vulnerable position.
I mean, as bad as our offense played, we had more first downs than Tennessee did last week
By 2.
by 2. It was 15, 13.
I think it
Something
was,
Now they did have a
Yeah.
couple long. They had a 66
16,
yard
16,
touchdown and
14,
a
I think.
42-yard
Right.
catch. So that that would be a couple first downs that probably would have evened out. But for as bad as our offense played, our defense played well enough to keep them low on the first downs. And outside of Texas, I think Texas and Tennessee offenses are probably similar explosiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Other than those two teams, Bama will probably have a couple big plays. But Ole Miss, I didn't think about that. Yeah. So I was gonna say we pretty much faced our toughest offense of the season.
No, we very well might have faced these
against
types of
Tennessee,
might have,
but we will still have a
We're
couple
right up
more. But I mean, we've got 8 games left, and we'll probably see 2 or 3 maybe that are as good as Tennessee.
Right. Yeah, and nobody that's clearly head and shoulders above what we saw out of Tennessee.
So keeping them down, if we can just keep teams under 24 points
I don't think
and
that's
get
a problem.
some semblance of an offense,
We can be competitive.
we can win some games.
We can win
And
some.
hopefully
we
not
can
go
win.
7-5.
We can win all those games. Well, I like what you said, Jay, and how you're optimistic about the team and their prospects. I think it's exciting, and maybe that's the right attitude to have. And hopefully the team has that attitude of, hey, A, it's a new start. B, everything's still in front of you. Literally everything's in front of you. In a playoff realm, you can lose a game. It is not the end of the world. You're gonna lose games.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
worry
the
about it.
shift this year for sure. If we had lost our non-conference game to Tennessee and played the way we played, and then we're worried about the Texas game,
Yeah.
I mean that's the season.
Yeah. And we
It's
can
over.
even lose to Texas, and it doesn't mean more. It means
We
less.
can lose to Texas and to Alabama,
and we still
and
could
it's
make the
all
playoffs.
still in front.
Yeah, we could still make the SEC title game.
I mean, it's all still there.
I mean, a lot of season to be played out, obviously.
That's some pie in the sky crap right there.
And as for as many
No, it's
people,
not.
Making an
It's
SEC
definitely
title game
possible.
with 3 losses in conference.
It could happen. It definitely
Well,
could
with no
happen.
divisions, that means you'd have to have plenty of other teams with 3
Yeah,
losses, and then you have tiebreaker scenario.
Okay, so you have one team that's dominant that goes, it's
Okay.
clear, and then you're in a tiebreaker scenario. Yeah, it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. Where in the Big 12, it is. In the old days, that was like not going
Are
to
you
happen.
canceling your
right?
hotel room in Atlanta? Have you done that yet?
No, I've got those booked. I got the flights booked. I prepaid for all that. I made sure that it was non-refundable, and I actually paid more for the non-refundable,
Yeah.
which is ironic, but yeah. So as good as it could be, as bad as it is, whatever, we know one thing for sure: we're not going to have an undefeated season, which is unfortunate, obviously.
What's the quote though? It's the night is darkest just before the dawn. So what they say in Batman,
That's right.
you know,
Well, it's
maybe
not
this
just
is all-
Batman. That's just
Maybe this is,
probably predates Batman.
Hey,
I like how Connor's
generation
reference goes to Batman. That's when history starts. Did Shakespeare write Batman? No, it's
But maybe
it
that's
is.
maybe that's our darkest spot right there. Maybe it's sun is rising. Here we go.
It absolutely could be in a couple of respects. One is it's a fresh start. And one thing that I think is almost undeniable as you read between the lines with what Brent Venables is saying and the demeanor he has, the honesty he has, everything that he's coming out with. I think he walked through that proverbial door to the offensive room and said, I'm now in this room and we're going to make some decisions, guys, and this is going to change. For better or for worse, he has taken an active role there. I think he can confidently say the defense is taken care of. I don't have to worry about that. I'm now going to figure out what's going on with this offense.
What I would be curious to know, because you can't take, you have to still put blame on Venables for the offense.
For sure.
He is the head coach.
You take it?
But you have to wonder, did he give too much autonomy to the offensive staff?
You get hints of that when he's almost saying like, I don't really understand what we're doing here. I don't understand why we have all these
They call out of the
options.
end zone where we got safety.
Yeah.
He said that should never be an option in that.
But what I don't
Should
understand,
never ran
What
the
are you
play.
running?
but what I
Yeah.
don't understand is that not coming through the headset? Is every offensive play call not going through the head coach's headset? Did he not know that's the call on the goal?
I don't know.
Well, maybe he does
At
and
that
doesn't.
point,
Maybe.
he might be on a 2-way with Zach Alley talking about.
Yeah.
That's right.
But again, but is that part of the autonomy that I'm talking about?
Which is what you actually want.
You want it. Yeah, you want that.
You don't want him to be second guessing everything going on in real time.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna guess that Bob Stoops knew what offensive play policy.
I don't know.
I don't know. In those situations, I could see that not being the case. A lot of no, I bet absolutely not. With Lincoln and Kevin Wilson and all the guys that he could trust, I bet he didn't.
Plus, you think they know all the verbiage of all the
Yes,
playbook
absolutely.
when they're like Stoops was a defensive coach, Venables is a defensive coach. I guarantee you. I mean, the difference in offense and defensive play calling. So when Lincoln's on the headset, half the time he's over there talking
right,
to the quarterback
all right.
while the defense is on the
All right,
field.
let me put it this way. If
I
it
don't
was,
think he knew what the play call was.
if it was your
when it went
team,
in.
if it was your team at the 25-yard line, first play, maybe you don't know what it is. If it's your football team at the 1, you have to hear the play call.
I don't think so. Why? What does that do? You're not going to
You
overrule
can't
it.
situationally dictate it.
I think you would. I think you would actually listen if it was last second of the game and you're on your
Or is it
you're
something-
trying to go
or
in
2-minute
because you're
drill.
curious.
2-minute drill thing.
But if you like, you're on the 1 yard line, you're thinking like, well, you run a 1 yard play. It's like that's not a lot of options, guys. And then it is like shucking it. What did you do? You did what on the 1 yard line? That to me, it's very plausible that
Okay,
he
do you
didn't
think he
hear it.
knows this week what plays are being called?
Maybe to a fault. I worry that he's maybe too involved.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know.
I mean,
I would want to know.
you hire coordinators for a reason.
right.
Like they are an extension of you on each side of the ball. Given Brent's obviously going to be more involved with the defensive side,
Okay,
but
let me put it this way.
Seth should be able to handle it.
Did he put an undue amount of trust into people not proven yet?
Absolutely, maybe.
If you mean, did he make the incorrect hire at offensive
No,
coordinator?
no,
I
just
mean, I don't think you
yes.
call Seth Luttrell an unproven hire. I mean, the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I
the
agree.
guy was a good play caller at 3 other
well,
places
I
that he
didn't say
went.
that. I just
No. I see. Yeah. So I agree with what Lucas is saying, but I don't think you're saying that. Is it?
no, I didn't say he was an unproven play caller. I'm just saying, did you
Trust him too much.
trust him
I
too
mean,
much?
Jeff Lebby is a more unproven play caller, letting him run things last year because I don't think he was calling plays at UCF, and I find it a little hard to believe that Kiffin wasn't calling the majority of plays in Ole Miss. So I think when you brought in Lebby, maybe that's a guy that you want to keep tabs on. But I don't know that Luttrell is with all of his experience
If you're the
over the
OC,
last 15 years of calling plays.
if you're the OC at the University of Oklahoma, you shouldn't need head coach oversight to go and call plays.
You should need your handheld.
It's
Absolutely
not.
not.
A handheld.
No, but you're getting paid too much money to say, hey, to know you're calling in a play and then to know that your head coach is listening on the other side of a headphone or of a microphone or headset, sorry,
I think it's too
who
simple.
could end up vetoing.
I think it's too simple to say this week, hey, against Auburn, don't make any stupid calls and then leave.
I don't think he's doing
But
that.
I
That's
think,
just
but,
too,
but
like,
I think there's a time and place. Like
Hey,
in
you
between,
coached before.
in
Make better
between-
calls,
in
damn it,
between
and then walk out of
drives,
the
though,
room.
in between drives or something, if it's not the game plan they've discussed or it's going against the grain of what they thought was going to be the normal run of business, then Brent gets on and says, "Hey, we're not running what we planned. What's going on? Like this was not part of our game plan. This was not part of the
Well, that's what I'm
walkthrough."
saying. Do you think he?
I think there
Do you
should be
think
some
he sits
intervention
down?
if
Do you
it's
think he
going
sits down with them
incorrectly.
and has to check off on what's your game plan this week? What are you wanting to run?
I would
This or
suspect. I would suspect that he hadn't been doing that at least as much as he is going to be doing it now. And to your point, I think it may be the case that he should have been doing more, but how would he know, right? Just like with Jackson Arnold, how do you know he's not the guy? In retrospect, in hindsight, he's not the guy. In retrospect, it may turn out that Seth is not the guy. Right now, I am in the assignment of blame. I'm pretty low on blaming Seth Luttrell and company too much. I am willing to change that as time goes on, but I think mostly at Jackson Arnold and the offensive line and the injuries, etc. There's blame to be had on the coaching staff for not being ready and not adjusting to the reality. But we'll see and discover, oh, no, it may just be that he's not the guy for the job.
Here's another thing I just can't wrap my head around. Venables had to look at the Tennessee defensive film. Okay. He didn't just look at Tennessee offense.
Right.
You had to know, just like everybody else knew, the strength of Tennessee's defense was their front seven. Okay. And you're telling me that he sat down and checked off on the game plan of we're gonna bully ball Tennessee up the middle.
I don't
and-
even- I don't think that was the game plan.
How many of those balls that we ran up the middle were actually RPOs that Jackson should have pulled and tried to find
Right.
something else?
Right.
Like it may have just been Jackson saying, I didn't see the read on the pass, so I'm handing it off. Like I do think there's
Did
some
it take a
shared
whole
blame.
game to change that?
It took less than 2 quarters to change it.
It wouldn't have taken Bob 2 drives.
I'm not saying it shouldn't have changed faster, like or shouldn't have changed before the game even. But I do think there was a game plan set, and I definitely don't think it was. I think we're going to be able to run in between the tackles against Tennessee.
Well, we did sure the hell tried.
In result, yes, we did, but we don't know who was trying.
Now the safety that we gave up, inexplicable. Like I can't. Outside of what Brent said yesterday, that we didn't practice that play, I have no idea. And that lends for the amount that Brent dragged his offensive staff yesterday in a public forum. I know we talked about it. I can't imagine what those meetings were like. And it actually does, for as much blame as I put on the execution and the injuries and the players that are out there, it sounds like there's a relatively good amount of blame to have on the offensive coaching staff for not going about things correctly in terms of their game.
I don't think he said we don't practice that play. I think he said we don't run that play down there.
Yeah, he
Like,
said
when
we
you're-
don't practice.
when
I
you're on
think
the
the play
2-yard
was the
line,
lateral.
you don't run that play.
Yes. Oh, that's what I'm referring
Yeah,
to. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
lateral, that's not even an option on that play.
Right.
Like that was a complete ad lib, just complete screw up.
Which
What was the play though? Because to your point in the
He said
video,
it was a run all day.
a run all day. Okay, and that's why the offensive linemen were up the field because it wasn't a
Right.
pass. We had
Right.
2 offensive linemen that were 7 yards past the line of scrimmage.
so it's either a run or
It's
it's a
either
throw
or
behind the
throw
score.
behind the line of
And
scrimmage.
it, yeah. And
And
Jackson, which is weird, is when you watch that play, he throws it forward, but it finishes behind.
Oh,
Right.
it's so crazy.
And
yeah.
it wasn't any wind
The
blowing.
whip on that ball must have been
Well,
insane.
And
was
that,
like a little
that gets
trough.
back to
Uh,
us getting hosed by officiating several times in that game.
At worst,
we're
that's a
bad.
tie.
That's a tie.
At worst, it's straight.
And the touchdowns should
They
be going.
always give that. As
They
a score.
overturned the touchdown. That cost us 51 seconds. So one last point before I get back to trying to create a segue that you completely stomped on with a very good point, Jay. And I appreciated that interjection.
It's rare.
Monica
So
appreciating Jay.
what happens? What's the narrative like if a few of those things work? All else being the reality, but if Jackson does just a little bit better, almost by accident, like if he doesn't fumble that ball,
It's the narrative you said
if
earlier.
if he hits Brennan Thompson across on that deep cross and angle
Or
route,
Burks instead of the pick.
yeah, like we win that game. Or if Michael Hawkins brings it, if we don't get that touchdown overruled, we get the 51 seconds back it took us to score, we get an onside kick or whatever it happens to be, and we end up winning that game just by the hair of our chinny chin chin, and we're actually not that good. The narrative's totally different. Are we better off having lost the game with changes now afoot, with Brent deeply embedded in the offense versus, well, we won the game, so it's okay.
We did enough.
We did
I
enough.
think what you're alluding to would have reared its ugly head differently, and just a different game.
I would.
It'd been
a different
inevitable.
game,
It'd be Texas.
but it'd be
Yeah.
too late.
I mean,
it might be too
It'd
late.
be like the 9-0 Lincoln started off in 21 when the whole
Good point.
time we kept going, we're winning these games, but we either shouldn't be or
Might have been better to
something
lose
needs
to
to
Nebraska
change.
or lose to West Virginia, and we see change in that
I
season.
mean, we kept saying something needs to change. 'Cause
Right.
We're barely winning these games that we shouldn't. We should be winning by more.
I don't mean to totally, rose-colored glasses, silver lining, homer this thing, but is it good that we lost so that we can actually clean up the house? Not clean house, but clean up the house?
I mean, I definitely do think there's a case of like, go look in the mirror after that for
Yeah.
sure. That you a lot of the time don't, especially from players, you don't get it from players after winning, regardless of how you win.
Right.
You don't get that. And I think it's kind of what you said earlier is it would just be masking a bigger issue.
You can potentially learn a lot from a close win, but you damn sure have to learn from a loss. And We lost the game. So back to my
I'm
segue.
sick of losing at home, by the way.
I'm sick of losing at home. I'm sick of losing. I like undefeated
It's the
seasons.
first time we've lost at home in 2 seasons.
So let me ask you guys a
Well, I
question.
mean, we went 1 year without losing at home.
Last year, yeah, sorry. So like it's
I mean, we
from
lost
2
plenty at
seasons.
home in
Oh yeah.
Brent's first year.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we talked about it. You know, it took Stoops.
11
Brent lost
seasons.
more in his first year than Stoops lost in his first decade or something like that. At
Yeah,
home.
and Brent walked into a John Blake level,
Right.
whereas
Well, so
Stoops
did
walked in.
Stoops.
No, he
And
walked into the start of a John
You said he
Blake level.
walked into John Blake.
No,
level.
yeah, at the start of the John Blake level, not the end of it. And so they had a totally different situation then. Well, regardless, I don't like losing, and OU doesn't like losing. We like winning, and we like winning all our games. So I didn't really frame this as a question, so let me try to get this as a question to see if you guys can get it. OU has had a lot of undefeated seasons. We have had 7 national titles starting in 1950, which was itself an undefeated season. Answer either of these 2 questions. How many undefeated seasons have we had? Or, if you don't want to go down that road, have we had more or fewer since our first national title, including that national title?
More or fewer since our first national title in 1950.
I think we had more undefeated seasons pre 1950 than we've had post 1950.
That's correct.
I was gonna say the same.
We've had
We were playing
5
Kingfisher College,
We've
Kingfisher
had-
High School. Or whatever.
college. That was a college.
Kingfisher
It's a
College.
college. That was
We did play. They
We
did play
lose to
Norman High.
Yeah.
They did play Norman High in year 1 or something like
And
that.
lost.
No, year
Year
2 or
Oh.
something like that. I don't think we actually played Norman High ever. I'm pretty sure we didn't play Norman High. We've had 13 undefeated seasons, 5 of them starting in 1950 and on, winning national titles in all but one of them. We've had 8, and it's kind of tricky when you look at the years where the bowl games actually didn't count, but we had 8 undefeated seasons before 1950. And if you don't want to count the 3 consecutive 2-0 seasons, where in 1896 through 1898, where we were 2-0, 2-0, and 2-0, we still tie it 5 versus 5. Our first season ever, we lost to Oklahoma City 0-1, and we got sick of losing, and so we just said we're winning from here on out. But that's kind of interesting. In 1949 we're 11-0, 1920 6-0, 18 6-0, 1915 10-0. Didn't get a lot of respect.
You know what I'm hearing in all this?
Unfair.
We need a petition to get national championships.
There you go.
And then
Like
put signs up.
1945, you know.
We don't do that.
Something like that.
We don't do
Put
that
it
at
up
the
in the
University
end
of
zone.
Oklahoma.
Bama
No, we
does.
don't.
Bama
Bama claims
does.
like 18 national.
Bama claims a lot. We do not claim those. We claim the 7, and I respect us for that. I think it's great. But I thought it was kind of interesting. 8 undefeated seasons before 1950. So, and I kind of gave away a future trivia question to see if you guys remember it. In that.
I won't.
So, well, we've got a lot of predictions to make, guys. And so it's going to start with, of course, the lock of the week.
The Realist Deal Locks of the Week.
So for the locks of the week, we've got a guest listener picker, and that is Mike. He's been on the pod. He talks a lot. He has a lot to say over text, and he gave us 3 locks of the week. We're going to start with his locks of the week, and then we'll roll through ours. And I also will bring up our record while we're talking about that. So Mike has Miami of Florida giving 18.5 to Virginia Tech. It's one of his locks. He's got Illinois getting 17.5 against Penn State. Kind of like that pick. He's got Oregon giving 24.5 to UCLA. I kind of don't like that pick. I think
for big numbers.
yeah, these are big numbers. So I don't know. I think that I think the Illinois pick is pretty good, but I actually think UCLA has a chance to expose Oregon a little bit. We'll see. But I tell you what, my views on this really aren't important. Whose views are important are Jay.
Oh,
Jay, you're killing it.
bring it.
10-2 on the season, 83%. That's just excellent. That's making money, baby.
It's got me nervous.
Yeah, you should be, because Lucas, you're hearing some footsteps. He's coming up on you. He's 7-5, 58%. Connor's the reverse of that, 5-7, 42%. And I am pulling up the rear at 4-8, 33%. So as a group, as a team, it's a team effort. We're 26-22, which is 54%.
Carry the team, Jay.
Narrowly behind our listener picks, which are 7-5 for 58%. But, you know, if you throw me out, we're beating the listener. So regardless of how good or bad I am, I'm going to go ahead and make some picks for this week. I've got Texas giving 38.5 to Mississippi State. I think that the Levy experiment is going to continue to prove bad. I think Texas is going
They
to
lost their starting quarterback too.
Mississippi State
Yeah,
did, yes. Well,
Could
so
Levy,
did Texas.
could Levy lose his job in year one?
He could, but it'd be
Yeah,
very
I think
unlikely.
so.
Give him some grace.
Maybe he took somebody out on the field for pictures afterwards.
Who are they gonna
Yeah.
get?
Right. It's
They
Mississippi
have him up in
State.
the booth calling plays.
Maybe Seth
Seth
Luttrell.
Luttrell.
Zach Selman doing us all a favor again,
Thank you, Zach.
back to back.
I've got an up and down Memphis team giving 24.5 to Middle Tennessee.
I like that one.
And I've got the University of Oklahoma giving a measly 2.5 to Auburn. Baby, that's a lock. Here's why I like it. Obviously, I like it because I want that to happen. But as I look at 2.5 points, that just doesn't seem like enough to me against an Auburn team that's been very shaky. Their strength is offense. Our strength is defense. I think our offense has a good chance to be meaningfully better. Meaningful doesn't take much to be better. You win the game probably, and you're winning by 2.5. You kick a field goal
It's
after a
pretty
tie
much a
game,
pick 'em.
and you're winning.
Yeah.
So because of the line where it is, that's a lock. If it had been 5 or more, I'm staying away from that game. But I really like it at 2.5. Connor, what do you got?
I have the Ole Miss Rebels giving 17.5 against Kentucky. Kentucky is one of the lower rated offenses in the country. I think they are one rank above ours, if I remember correctly. So I've got Ole Miss high power offense winning that game. I've got Bama getting 1.5 against Georgia.
At home.
At home.
When's the last time Bama got points at home?
09, I think.
That sounds like free money.
2009.
2009.
They're giving away $100 bills for $80,
Unreal.
guys.
And Bama looks all the part. Georgia has not. So I've got Bama winning that one. What time? That's at prime time. We'll watch that game. We'll get the. Oh, well, we're not going to a game. We can watch it.
We
regardless.
can watch every game.
Yeah, sorry, we've been going to every game.
We'll have the
so-
TV on top of the
Well,
TV.
I think we'll be doing the pod. right?
but
Post game would be up.
Yeah, we'll have that
I
going. for
thought
the
we
pod.
might wait till like 10 o'clock to do the pod.
Well, it'd be more of our norm.
Depends how it goes.
Last
God.
one. Last one I have.
Might just skip it all together.
I've got Oklahoma
Gosh, dang it. you
giving
guys.
2.5
Yes.
against the
Free
University.
money.
You two both had Oklahoma last week. We see how that's
Free money.
Hey, we're 2-2 against the spread this year.
We're gonna do it.
We got it.
All right, I've got A&M -4 against Arkansas. That's at Jerry World. I've got friends that go to that game every year that are Arkansas fans, and they usually leave disappointed. So, something about A&M, I don't know.
Something in that environment. They know they've got it figured
I
out.
think both of those teams are solid. I haven't seen A&M play that much this year. I have seen Arkansas play a couple times, and they're solid, not great. So
They can win games.
A&M -4.
All right.
I have UCLA getting 25.5 against Oregon, going against our listener, Mike. But he knows more than me generally, so no telling how that
And
one
you
turns
get
out.
the improvement of the line because you waited. He
Yeah.
jumped on it. Like I sent this to him. I said, "Do you want to be the lot?" He sent it within 32 seconds. He goes, "Here are 3, and I've got 3 more." So it's like, "I don't care about your 3 more," and he sends them very
He
arrogantly.
lives in Kansas, so he can actually
Super
bet.
arrogant. He lives
What's
in
that
a,
like?
he lives in a free country.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's shocking.
Well, here in North Korea, we're not allowed to do that.
And
They
then
don't
I've
like
got
they don't like freedom in Kansas. Or,
I have
no, sorry, Missouri.
SMU -6.5 against Florida State. It's hard to believe Florida State can go 1-4 to start this season, but
Believe it, it's
SMU
going to happen.
absolutely destroyed TCU last week.
What was the Florida State Cal score? Remind me.
14-9.
14-9.
Florida State just has not scored any points this year. I don't think they've scored over 20 other than the first game of the year against Georgia Tech.
So a slight diversion or digression on that. How tough is it to be a Florida State fan right now?
Extremely difficult.
And how mad are you at that committee? I know that's not everything, but the damn committee does what they did to them last year. And I admit they did not look very good on a backup and then a third string quarterback, but they had earned the right to be in the playoff. And when they weren't, it was a mass departure of people, including guys who probably would have stuck around and maybe would have stuck around into this year. It's a momentum effect. It's a lot of different things going on. It has just been a rolling downhill to new lows for that poor team and that
I
poor
mean, at this
program.
point, I'd want to bring one of the Bowden sons in to coach since Bobby's passed, but
Yeah,
there's two sons that were both coaches.
DJ
They might be better off with one of them doing it.
DJ Uiagalelei must have Norvell by the neck or something.
he's got some dirt
I
in
don't
him or
know
something, man.
how
I don't
that
know.
kid is still playing.
That's guy's bounced around from place to place.
Now,
He did have a good season at Oregon State last year, but where he started at Clemson, he was a Dr. Pepper, the first year of NIL, he was a Dr. Pepper national spokesman. And
The curse.
was terrible. Yeah. I did see the Jackson Arnold stand-ups in the local super center in front of the Dr. Pepper display.
Well, he must have
So,
been affected.
This might be like a Madden situation in pros where Dr. Pepper just ruins everybody in college.
Well, before that,
yours is on there.
before that,
Yeah,
it was
yours
the
also.
it was
He's
the
injured.
Sports Illustrated curse. It's called regression to the mean. It's kind of well understood, but yeah,
That seems like some math. Right?
All right, can we get to the important picks now?
Yeah, we're done with the ones that may or may
You
not.
wanted to just hear the ones that
Yeah.
give us a little,
Give us the
a
real
minute,
guys.
man.
Listeners, you're gonna want to start writing
No,
these down.
Okay, I'm actually.
Money happening.
I'm honestly. I don't feel
I'm
good
so
about any of
scared of
these.
my picks.
I'm scared of my picks.
I'm so scared I'm gonna not go 3-0 again.
That's right. I am scared. And I'm really scared that two of you picked this one.
Uh-oh.
I'm taking
Oh, you-
University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
to beat
3
Auburn.
homers and a realist.
Love it.
And I'm gonna stick with the theme here.
Uh-huh. And win?
Yes. And I'm gonna go
We're gonna be eating
Uh,
W's.
against two teams that we beat. And we were much worse than I even knew we were when we beat these teams. I'm gonna take Army minus 12.5 versus Temple.
I like that.
That's a good pick. I'm going
And
to go start going off sheet for picks.
It
Is
sounds like a service pick.
I'm going Iowa State
that an Army joke?
minus 13.5 against Houston.
I like it as well.
Those are very good picks. I like your fact that you're putting some thought to it and you're talking about teams we've seen and teams, that you've got a lot of mental tape on.
We did the usual.
Maybe that's why this guy's winning.
You
He's
know-
actually putting his brain behind it.
Well, I'm a part-time homer and part-time realist. And sometimes when we beat a team, we think, oh, they're going to have a better season than we thought they did. And then Houston goes out and gets shut out last weekend, 35-0. So, and obviously we were pretty bad.
Yeah.
So how bad is Houston? And
Hopefully they're worse than 13 and a half.
And Iowa State actually has, a decent team and a decent defense. I don't see Houston scoring.
It
not
looks
much.
tough. It looks tricky. How are they going to do it?
So
Is that at Iowa State?
it's at Houston.
Oh. Okay.
Oh.
All right, good picks, solid picks. Well, we got a prop bet of the week. So OU has averaged, I can't even believe this is the number, 299 or 299 and a half
299.5.
yards total offense per game. So I'm gonna use that as the over under. Will we have more or less over under 299 and a half total offensive yards against Auburn? I'm taking over. And I know it's like hope, but it sounds like it should be free money, and it kind of should be. It's hard to believe we can win that game if we don't do that. I don't know. It seems like there's lots of ways that over hits, but that's scary to me because we've not hit it twice.
I'm going over.
Easy over.
Go for it, Lucas.
I'm gonna go with a barely over.
Barely over. All right, I'll footnote that with a barely.
I think the only
Barely.
way we don't go over is because of short fields. That's my only
Turnovers.
concern with reaching that number.
Michael
Is
Hawkins,
the
that's fair.
defense playing
That's
so
fair.
well?
That's fair.
Michael Hawkins accumulated 132 yards in 2 quarters of football against Tennessee. I don't expect Auburn's defense to be as good as Tennessee's. Michael Hawkins is going to get 4 quarters. I'm not going to say he's going to double 132 yards, but I think he gets over 200. I think he pushes 250 probably.
Right.
He can do anything in the run game, whether it's with Michael Hawkins or with, God willing, an actual running back. I think you see 350 to 400.
Well, we saw the injury report and Tatum is out for this game.
Best running back is out.
So you're looking at Sawchuk and Barnes.
I think
Barnes
it's Barnes,
obviously the
Barnes,
starter.
Barnes Sawchuk.
Well,
I mean,
and
they trusted They
Sam
trusted
Franklin.
Franklin
yeah.
over Sawchuck last week. Franklin had more
I
snaps.
wish Hicks could get some
And Hicks,
snaps.
that's
Yeah, that's surprising to me too, because he looked really good in the spring game.
He just must not
well,
be
everyone,
practicing well.
everyone who gets to go to
Blocking.
practices and go on
Blocking,
sidelines and
yeah.
stuff. Hicks,
Blocking, it's a good point.
quote, looks the part. Right. So
Right.
it's interesting that he can't get any run at all.
Do you think those guys are seeing the blocking, or do you think when they say looks the part?
I just mean coming off the bus.
Oh,
Like if you're lining up running backs, Hicks apparently just looks like a million.
Florida State's running back looks the part as well. It looks like Derrick Henry, just like 6 inches shorter, and he hasn't done it.
Why can't I think of the kid's name from Carl Albert? The big running back.
Xavier Robinson.
Xavier Robinson. Where is this cat?
yeah.
I mean, he's a
And
true
short-
freshman, probably
in
probably
short
doesn't have the
yardage?
blocking scheme. Yeah,
No, short yardage.
yeah, he's big.
All right, big guy.
We're at the 6-inch line
Right,
and we can't bring in a 230-pound running back to run a dive play.
right.
You know, it'd be really nice
Fullback?
is a fullback, or maybe when it's 4th and 1 or 4th and inches or 4th and goal from the 1,
Going under center.
maybe you should go under center.
I don't think
Instead
that's
of taking
allowed.
the snap 5 yards back.
I know.
Maybe you should just get under center and halfback dive it for a couple, for the 1 or 2 yards
Or-
you need.
QB dive.
Oh, Wildcat is better than running a quarterback empty.
It is a lot better because you've got another guy that can threaten in a way. I mean, I know Jackson Arnold's a big guy, but he just doesn't threaten the way that somebody that any of the guys you're talking about would.
We ran Wildcat with a tight end right down Texas's throat for a whole quarter in the Cotton Bowl.
It's almost like it's the kind of thing that I don't know. It's one of those
It's what
deals
worries me
where
mostly with the coaches.
the coaches would rather lose conventionally than win unconventionally. And they see something like that as too gimmicky. I don't know. It's just, to me, at this point, you go ahead and do stuff like that. And even if it doesn't work, it does. I don't think the fans are going to say, what are you doing there? At this point, they're going to say, I understand what you're doing.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for trying.
trying.
Thanks for trying.
Thanks for
I
doing
think
something
you
different.
could put Dominic Williams in the Wildcat
Yeah.
in the 6-inch line and say, go get it, big fella.
I think they would. I think fans, to the extent that matters to them, and it's got to matter, that they would be more forgiving or understanding of that than if you do some double flea flicker, backwards pass, and here we go down the field and have a guy who's not a quarterback try and throw a ball. It's like, that's too cute. Don't do that. Do a thing that is going to put a defense in trouble where it's man to man, and all of a sudden there's one hat who can stop that guy versus a conventional setup that is, well, if we just run our conventional defense, we have a good chance of stopping this.
Well, and look who is unconventional, who is one of the biggest offensive names in the NFL, and that's Andy Reid. And he's not doing. He does. Patrick Mahomes is a freak. He has an amazing team, but Andy Reid is an innovative mind.
He's not afraid to do
scared
stuff.
to push the norm,
Yeah.
and he's putting offensive linemen like Wanye Morris out at the tight end spot and running a drag with him, running free in the end zone, catching the ball.
Yeah.
I
Just to
mean,
mention, OU offensive lineman touchdowns 1 that weekend. Texas wide receiver 0. Just throwing it.
Nice.
hey, where
I
is
like it.
that?
I
Where
like
is
good
that?
stat.
And back to Xavier Robbins' situation, maybe he doesn't know the blocking scheme on passing plays. And maybe you're telegraphing what you do if he's in the game, but he's big enough that he could block. And we have been running 2 running back sets. So why not on short yardage tell him you have to cover this hole because the O line's going to open, center's going to go right, left guard is going to go left. You plug that hole in between them two and knock that linebacker back, and the running back just goes right behind him and gets a yard.
That's
or
still
two.
too cute for me. You just bring in your big running back on the 6-inch line and say, you're literally going straight and you're running as hard as fast as you can.
Yep. And we're just going to fall into the end zone.
I don't get.
So I like all that. Here's the kind of contrast I'd paint, and maybe this is not fair because it was Levy and it's not here, but it would not surprise me if, again, we see the kind of trick play with 2 quarterbacks who are very good athletes, very capable of throwing the ball, etc. If we run a play with 2 quarterbacks out there and the guy that's under center is not Jackson Arnold, it's Michael Hawkins, and we put Jackson Arnold out
All the way on the side.
as a wide receiver, which
Just
is
to
the
take
exact
one guy
opposite of what you should do. You should put Michael Hawkins with feet and a threat in a slot or wherever. And if I'm a defense, I'm worried about that. If you put Jackson Arnold out there, I'm not that worried about that.
Or you have both of them in the backfield looking like they're going to take the snap.
Right.
And you have to figure out which
Which
one's
one's going to get it, which way it's going to go.
You can figure out
That would be
fake-
something.
a fake toss to
That
a
would be
throw
something.
or something.
Me and
Oh,
Jay
it'd be
used to have
incredible.
this talk years ago where you said you had a left-handed quarterback and a right-handed quarterback. One of them lines up behind center in the shotgun, and the other one lines up to his left or right, whichever handedness it is.
Right.
And the center snaps it to one or the other. The defense doesn't know which QB is getting the ball.
Right.
And then whoever gets it can roll to
Roll to their
the guy
side.
on the right-handed guy rolls to his right, the left-handed guy rolls to his left. You don't know which one of them two are getting the ball.
Right.
Obviously, you're using up one of your positions that would be a skill position that
Sure.
you have out there, but you could go 3 wide and have 2 quarterbacks and run something with.
Well, and
Well,
as
Well,
the
you could
center-
always throw back to the other quarterback who's
Yeah.
drifting backwards.
No, but
Yeah.
as the center, it would be on them
to
to
get the ball there.
decide which quarterback was getting it by
Based on what
looking
they
at the
see.
defense.
And they don't know. And they don't know. Like, you get the ball, you know what you're doing. If you don't get the ball, you know what you're doing.
And you know how many centers at OU could have made that decision over the last 2 decades? Probably 5 of them.
Probably a lot.
Darlington could, Eichert could,
Free
Humphrey.
could.
Humphrey could. I mean, we've had plenty of
Oh, you
really
said
good.
50.
Yeah, probably over the last 2 decades, you could have 5 or 6 starting centers that were here 3 or 4 years make the decision on which one of those quarterbacks should get the ball based on reading the defense.
Should we just
That'd be
should
incredible.
we just write a playbook?
I have a playbook. I have a,
Of
I have-
course you
I have
do.
a leather
Many leather bound
binders,
books.
like old school paper. I put in place.
You should send that to the coaches. They'd appreciate
I've
that.
thought about.
We're talking about going to Rudy's and just accidentally
Just,
do the
just-
Mike Leach. Oh,
just
it's time
drop
to leave our
it.
playbook.
Coach, could you pick it up for me? Oh, look what kind of play that is.
Which
right
is-
there.
Look which page it opens to.
Or just drop it subtly
Yeah.
and see if he picks it up. Like, that would be the only way they do it. If you gave it to him, there's no way they could accept
No.
it. But if they accidentally found it, they'd be like, "Okay, this is pretty good. We're gonna."
I just
I will take credit. I-
put on
no,
there.
I-
Put a little cover page that says, "Whatever you do, don't read this, coach."
It's top secret.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
actually
I-
told Mark Mangino a play, and he actually ran it. I told it to him in the Houston Huffman, and he came out. He was playing racquetball, which was not a pretty sight. And I was playing basketball, and he was getting water. I was getting water. I said, "Coach, I love what you're doing. I think this is awesome." I said, "You're doing this thing with this." It was the when he'd move Heupel out, and they could pitch it forward. And I said, "You know what? If you'd ever throw to a tight end right there, that tight end is wide open." By God, he ran that play, and it was very successful. And he was nice. He said, "That's not a bad idea." Two games later, he ran that play, and it was successful.
I'll tell you, there is a player on this team who has really been bashed on for their blocking, and that's Bauer Sharp.
Yes.
But there is one thing that Bauer Sharp was before a tight end at OU,
quarterback.
and that was quarterback. I hope at some point we have a tight end throwback pass of some sort.
To
Or
Michael
just run- or
Hawkins
just
would
run,
be
run,
very,
run him in motion,
very
and pitch it
powerful.
to him, let
And-
him roll.
and pit and throws back to Michael Hawkins, who's just kind of fading into
Yeah,
the
fading
flat.
to the left and the
Or you
flat.
know,
Line him up as an H-back.
what was it that you know how you line up in trips to one side, and it looks like
Or pistol.
the two bigger guys are going to block for one of the receivers.
Right.
You have him be the step back guy
Right.
We don't have any wide receivers that can block that though.
for 2 seconds. That's true.
So if you receive that, you pitch it back to him, and he looks like he's throwing right, and Michael Hawkins is just drifting out to the left, it could be wide open.
I mean, it's a legit guy that I'm assuming
Can get the ball.
can
where it needs
probably
to go.
throw it 50, 60 yards.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm announcing a new podcast we're going to be doing, which is plays we should be running. We're
That's
going to do
right.
that in the midweek from now on. We're going to run the schematics.
2H1R playbook.
I love it. That's gold, baby.
No, in all
That's
honesty,
gold, Jerry.
in all honesty, Coop and I, we will watch games, and when we see a play that we love,
Write it down.
we actually have two big, like, two really big things of paper, like for art paper.
Right.
And we
Playbook.
draw the plays up, we put all the blocking schemes, we put the motions, we put the first, second, and third reads
Right.
for all the plays. We have
Well,
the whole thing.
In your defense of that, and I know a lot of guys do that. A lot of kids sit and draw up plays, and I drew up a lot of 13-man plays that would work really well when I was a kid. But we're not to denigrate anybody, but we're not talking rocket science here, right? You're not going to NASA and saying, I think there's a quicker way to the moon. I figured it out. You could legitimately add value by thinking this stuff through with the football you watch and the things you see. And one of the things you don't bring to the table, which is to your benefit, you don't bring baggage. You don't bring a hesitancy to be creative. They have a lot of reason not to be creative, a lot of reason to be insular, and a lot of reason to they're busy with what they're doing, and they only can do so much. You have the luxury of branching out and seeing some other things that could work. So these are not stupid ideas.
Well, and no one's ever gonna question someone who successfully pushes the limits. Like,
right.
and I
That's
know
the thing that's amazing is everybody acts as if the fans are going to be so mad
hit
if
him as
you do
boss.
something
And
different.
it's like,
They actually love that stuff.
yeah, and I don't know. So like Lane
And that would
Kiffin,
be gimmicky play.
no, not gimmicky. Like you can actually implement stuff into a
Yeah.
playbook and have it a part of your set of plays. Like I think Lane Kiffin's a great example. Guy doesn't care what anybody thinks.
Hugh Freeze
Goes
actually
and does his
some
thing.
innovative stuff.
That's absolutely right.
They go and do their thing and they don't care. And then well, Hugh Freeze maybe not, but right now, but Lane Kiffin goes and wins games and has these high statistical offenses and these
And gives defenses lots of trouble.
right.
One
That's
of the-
gonna be a
one of
tough game.
One of my favorite plays that I've never seen it since, and God, I wish we would try it. It was from Kansas State. It was a fake running back screen, quarterback bootleg,
Yeah.
but it had essentially you had, let's say, the center, left guard, and left tackle all release with the running back to the left
Clearly a screen all the way.
all day, but the right guard and the right tackle release to the right, and the quarterback lets the pressure come, does the little, this is a screen, this is a screen,
Spins
but
around.
puts it and
Which
spins
puts-
around
which
and has two lead blockers.
And you
he-
know what
he-
everyone does?
and
Every
he went like 60
every
yards.
lineman turns around and runs to the screen.
It was
They
phenomenal.
turn their
That's what they're
back.
taught.
Yeah, it's what
They
they're
say
taught.
if it looks like it's too easy to get to the quarterback,
turn
there's a
around.
reason for
Yes.
it. You need to turn around.
It was
Right.
phenomenal play. It might be my favorite play I've ever seen ran in football.
Texas runs a fun one where they fake a handoff left or right, and then they have they have another that's a dual set look, dual back look, and they have the opposite running back run out to the flat and they fake it, and their quarterback spins backwards or around to the back of the field, and then just tosses it over to that other running back. We actually blew that play up last year. Obviously we looked at the film, but I saw them run that play twice last year and it went for 40 to 50 yards both times.
Connor, that's great. We don't praise Texas on the
Sorry.
podcast.
Yeah.
Screw Texas.
Well, that's really good. Let's get to a wrap up here. Let's make some score predictions. So this is not a must-win game, but this is
It's a must win.
you kind of need to win this game.
For this season, you got to win.
And
If you want
you
the season
don't,
to have meaning.
if you don't, boy, you're in a position where you got to get really good fast to salvage this season because this is one of your wins. So we need this win. We need it to be a get right game. Perhaps this in combination with the last loss was the get right sequence. I don't know.
Going into a bye week as well, it's huge.
Going into a bye week before your biggest rivalry game and
Against the
everything.
number one team in the nation.
This is where it really starts heating up. So I've got a prediction. I think the Sooners are going to win. Obviously, I've got them locked. I've got a score of 31-20.
I like it.
Who goes next?
I'll go next. I've got OU 34 and Auburn 24.
I've got 24-17 Oklahoma.
Jay,
I think I went 27-17.
you did. So a 7-point victory for Lucas, a 10 for each of you two, and an 11-point
If
for
the
me.
math adds up, I think we all have us covering the spread.
It
Yes, we
seems
do.
like a lot of
Three of
points.
y'all did lock it. I am a little worried about your 27 number due to the fact that our kicker is out. We didn't hear anything about that until the injury report came out today. And he's not listed as questionable, not listed as doubtful. He's listed as out.
I think and apparently it's something with his appendix.
Oh, God.
So
Well, that's better
Not
than
a
leg. That's
burrito.
better than a leg injury.
right. So
It's not a burrito.
Yeah, it is
not
kick a
the-
burrito.
it's not, or didn't put a burrito where that Kansas State fan may have put the burrito last week as well. I will say, I agree with that concern, and he hasn't shown us yet because he's been bad on the road and bad in high pressure situations. I am glad our backup kicker does have experience kicking in
It's kind of rare.
in meaningful
Actually, yeah.
games.
That's rare.
So,
That is rare.
and for Schmidt, you got to take this and you got to run with it. I
Yep.
mean, every opportunity you can get to get out there that's not a kickoff, go be great, man. Like, go prove me wrong. I don't believe in you. I haven't believed in you since West Virginia in 2022. And you miss a critical kick and have missed a few since then, but go be
You know,
awesome.
everybody's got their motivators, and I don't know how other people tick, but to me, I feed off of negative energy. So if you doubt me,
I'm
that's
gonna
when I'm
show
at
you.
my best. I'm going to show you. And to me, that's freedom. Because if I get a lot of praise and I get a lot of everybody's, to me, I get worried about letting people down. But if you just doubt me and it's me against the world, I got nothing to lose.
Everything to
Just go out and prove it. So
My whole life is built on negative energy.
there you go. Yeah, you give it a lot to all of us. So I don't know. I worry
You know how
sometimes
to
we treat
calm
people with kid gloves and we treat them like, oh, if you don't, but no, tell them it's tough and tell them that, hey, you've already lost. It's already over. Go out. There's nothing to lose. Go out and hit that kick. Go out and play well at quarterback or whatever it happens to be.
Go out and win 8 games in a
Go
row.
win.
So
So do it.
I got a question for you two homers.
All right.
I'm surprised at the amount of points you give Auburn.
You're
Road,
giving them more than Tennessee.
road test.
Yeah, you're basically saying they're as good as Tennessee. Offensively. And they're not.
No, I'm not.
Hey, so
And they're not.
They
first
are
of all-
good offensively,
First of all,
They're not good offense.
if they're
They give you the
playing
ball. They
if they're
turn the ball
playing
crazy.
from
but
behind,
they're still a good offense.
if they're playing from behind or at least playing in a game that is in question for a lot of it or in doubt a lot of the game, they're going to be throwing everything and then some. I'm not saying
And their
Tennessee,
backs are completely against them.
I'm not saying that Tennessee did not do that, but I do think there was a sense of I'm going to try to get this game over with quickly. I'm not going to run everything that we have available to us in the playbook because OU can't go score. If we're putting up points, Auburn's going to feel that pressure to say, I'm going to let it loose no matter what. I think they may turn the ball over a lot. I hope my score is, I hope it is a drastic overestimation. If it is, it's further validation for me that this defense is more than the real deal.
I gave Auburn 7 extra points in some form or fashion of a young
Turnover,
quarterback
yeah.
or something along this line. Back against the wall, young quarterback, etc. But I mean, they scored 14 points in Arkansas.
That's a good point.
They were at home against Arkansas and scored 14.
Yeah.
They played 2 Power 4 teams this year. They scored 14 against Cal and 14 against Arkansas.
And we're better
And-
defenses than
And both those games were at home. So, I mean, if we're giving up 20s to
What's the over under?
Auburn,
I'm gonna say it's
45 and a
I
half.
was about to say 42.
I think if we're
Well,
giving
I have him scoring 20, and you guys have 17. I just have one more field goal. I don't think that's like crazy. And
Yeah, I
I
think
have
it's
I have
crazy.
51 points
Connor had
when the
10.
over under is 45. I mean, it's not that far off.
I don't
right?
think it's crazy. I'm just saying I threw 7 on just from a OU freshman.
I mean, do we have a better
quarterback on the
defense than
road.
Cal?
I would hope so.
Do we have
I
a
would
better
think so.
defense in Arkansas?
Yes.
would
Both
think-
those games are at Auburn, and both those games they scored 14.
Do you prepare differently for
So do you
Oklahoma?
think we're only going to win? You don't 17-14 or 17-10 or 17-7 to keep your margin?
I mean, I would be happy, obviously,
Obviously.
if we
But-
give up less than 10 or less, based on what they've done in the other 2 Power 4 games they
But
played.
Do you think the under is
I
a
gave
lock?
up. I had 17 because I think offense issues for us. I mean, Cal don't have.
Right,
the-
sure.
That's same,
I think
that's right.
Arkansas's offense.
So look at it this way: if is the under a lock?
45 and a half.
Yeah,
I'm gonna lock the over.
yeah. I
Based on
mean,
my score.
I think it
I've
locks
got-
the under.
Well, I
Yeah.
got 41. Yeah.
I mean, you got to think based on what you're saying. You
Yeah.
got to think
I
it's
don't like the under in that game.
you got to think it's an like we're only supposed to win by 2.5.
I think
So if
there-
it's the
That's
under
so
to get to
crazy.
the
I
under,
think
they've
there's-
got to score more than that,
I think
Right.
there's,
right?
I think there's a much greater chance that they score 3 than they score 20.
A much greater chance that they score 3 than they score 20.
But you
Well, I
think
would
that-
love that. That would be awesome.
If they only
Um,
score points, we're gonna 3 points. We're gonna win this game by. I mean, my score by 30 plus.
I mean, I think there's a better chance that they score 10.
And that's a
than
blowout.
24.
I'm just saying I would be more surprised at them putting up 20.
If we can hold them to
Then
2
they play.
touchdowns, I will be more than a happy camper.
Well,
On
folks will be
Saturday.
happy, but we're talking about this defense like it's not quite generational, but it's one of the best defenses in the country.
Sure.
They
But
shouldn't score crap.
but
that's the
Vegas,
case.
Vegas is predicting it's going to be a 24-21 game.
It's a road game too. It's a road game. And like a lot of people will be like, oh, it doesn't matter. They only scored 14 against Arkansas or however many against
Both those were at
Arkansas
home.
and Cal, and they're at home. It's a road game, and it's a game. I think you circle Oklahoma out of all those games that you mentioned just now. I mean, I know Arkansas is a conference foe, but Oklahoma's coming to town. I'm preparing a little bit differently. And you have they started a new quarterback last week too, I think, right? I think they had a new quarterback that started against Arkansas last week. He's going to have his feet under him a little bit more. They had 5 turnovers last week. I don't expect them to be as loose with the ball. I hope they are, but I don't expect them to be as if we go out and get 5 turnovers and if we don't, you're right, Jay. 3 points is a legitimate expectation at that point. But
What about the familiarity they have with Arkansas as opposed to us? The last time we played Auburn was a bowl game in what, 2016?
No familiarity
And
at
we
all.
destroyed them. So there's no familiarity with that at all. But they play Arkansas on a fairly regular basis. I don't know. The SEC schedule has been screwy for the last however long.
are you
but
sure you don't want to take OU as a lock?
I'm
I think
sure.
you should take it.
I'm marking it down.
You can have 4 this week.
So here's the deal, though. I mean, something's out of just completely mismatched here. If 45 is the over under and 2.5 is the line,
Vegas isn't trusting our defense.
and you're
either.
saying they're either not trusting our defense or
They're not trusting our offense.
well, they think we're going to win. They think we're going to win 24-21. So I mean, you're a little above it, Connor. I'm just slightly under the Vegas implied.
Well,
number.
then they really think that Tennessee shut it down. That's
Potentially,
what that says.
potentially. I mean, I don't know. I'll be depending on the way the game goes. I may be very delighted or very mad at 20 points, giving up 20 points. But I think it's a realistic expectation that they're going to score 20. 3 doesn't seem realistic to me, although I can see it happening. I like it.
I
So
also
I'm going to
don't
put
think
you
you're
down
crazy.
for 27-3.
My point was they've played 2 Power 4 teams and they've only scored 14
For
in each of
sure.
those games.
Sure.
I hear that. Absolutely.
So, I mean, it gets back to is 45 a lot? I don't know.
And I hope, I think a lot of my thought process when putting these scores is I'm not used to, I think OU can score 34 points. I think we can. I'm going to say I think we will. I predicted it. I'm also not used to OU running away with games.
Right.
So I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and say, this could be a game in the 4th quarter because for once our offense is getting points. And like we've seen that in the past, we're getting points. Well, then the defense falls off. So I hope my subconscious can be conditioned to start thinking otherwise. We have not been in a situation in 7 years where we're going and putting teams away consistently.
Well, the other thing is we don't necessarily think our defense is going to give up this many points. Any of us. We think our offense might. Our offense might put them in a position where they've got 1st and goal in the 8.
I mean, we gave away 5 points last week
Right.
because we went for it on a 4th
So
down and inside around.
We gave away a
35,
touchdown
and they
to
kicked the field
Tulane.
goal.
So,
We went for it on 1st down. I think it gave them their first field goal. We went for it on our first drive at the 50.
So
And the safety also.
we could both be right. We could have the defense only give up 13 points and the offense give a pick 6, and I still hit my numbers at 31-20, right? I mean, there's lots of ways that can go. Don't put me down as a doubter on our defense. I know what
I'm
you're
not a
trying to
doubter.
do. I know what
But
you're trying to do.
I know
That's a
it's
good
hard for
point.
you. I
That's a
know
good
it's hard for you to figure this out in your brain, but picking the game with the spread versus picking the game how I think it's going to go can be 2 entirely different things.
Sure.
I don't know why.
Right. Because there's a lot of variance. There's like 14 points of the standard deviation of games is like 14 points around the line. And so that's huge. So when you see a game that is 11-point margin either way in a 2.5-point spread, that's within the realm of what usually happens. That's football. So sure. And if there's an Auburn homer out there who's saying they're going to win 24-13, and that could happen. Absolutely. It's not going to happen.
I want
As
to
soon as you're going to win.
so bad.
I want to be
I
so
want to
bad.
be walk into a different beat on Saturday night. I want to be like, man, that's
You know who
it
I want to beat?
was meaningfully better.
This is going to be a preview of what we're going to talk about soon. We're going to have 2 weeks to talk about it. I want to beat Texas's ass.
Odd
I-
question. Odd question. What if we squeak by Auburn? Look improved, but squeak by Auburn. Would that be better? Just so that Texas walks.
Yes, maybe so. Maybe so. Yes.
Get up.
Yes.
That they're just going to trounce.
And they
us
have
in that-
2 weeks of no preparation because they cannot get the locker room focused.
Yes.
I love it.
And they play Georgia the week after.
I love it.
Yes.
Does Arch Manning start again? Oh, we can't talk about it right now.
Well, no, we can't. I'm so fired up for that.
My small fear is
Yeah,
if
we-
we come out and look really
And
good,
we look
actually
great and they
against Auburn,
prepare.
they're like,
Michael
oh
Hawkins
crap, we
looks,
gotta pay
Michael
attention.
Hawkins looks godly.
Oh, we gotta pay attention.
I know. No, absolutely. I'm sure if you're Sarkisian, you're saying, I hope Oklahoma wins by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that I can get this team focused because there's a chance they're not. And
Like
the
we
reason
just
I was
said,
saying,
Georgia's after us.
absolutely. Well, yeah, well, they may, as a coaching staff, not focus on us
Yes.
enough.
They have a bye week the week we do.
Yeah.
They may
So-
focus on Georgia.
They spend
Yes.
A
an
week on
extra-
Georgia.
They spend 2 days of that bye week on Georgia
Yes,
and not us.
put in my
When
veins. I
we're
love
putting
it.
it all on
The reason number 5,006, which is still meaningful, all the reasons I want to kick Texas's ass. Have you looked at what Ian Boyd's been putting out there?
I can't.
It is just, as much as I respect his mind and the things he says, he's basically writing off Oklahoma. He said the Brent Venables experiment is over. He's saying that we're just done. It's just like he's giving us absolutely no respect for what we've done, including defensively. It is just mind-bogglingly stupid, and it's very, very irritating. So I want to kick Auburn's ass. Then we're going to kick Texas's ass, and we're going to win the rest of our games. Either way, we're going to be here for it. We're going to be back to talk about the post game and all that stuff. Until then, Boomer.
Boomer.